Just want to share something that I have been learning. So there's this story by there was this guy called King Hezekiah. So King Hezekiah was one of the kings in Judah, and this guy, God established him. This story is found in Second Chronicles chapter 32. And so Sennacherib, a king from Assyria came, and he came against Judah, and he wanted to win them for himself. So what did Hezekiah do? So Hezekiah did what? He fenced out. Like he had already done this. Okay, he had already fenced the place. And what I was getting from that verse was that as you're getting established, please remember to fence, put systems so that you ensure that what God has blessed you is protected. You know? That so that you need to strengthen your estate, cover any loophole, and secure your ground. For the enemy will come at an opportune time. So, because the enemy will come, we have to always wear the full armor of God. Because in times of peace, we should actually prepare for God may allow something to challenge us, God may allow something to push us to the next level. And so Hezekiah took counsel with his princes, and what do? They decided, okay, what we shall do? We shall cover the water so that when the Assyrians come, they will think there is no water. They'll think these people are starving. And so he went ahead and guarded his resources. And what I was learning from that verse is sometimes we can have resources and we're not securing them, or we're not hiding. There are some things that we can actually, it will be beneficial if we keep them secret instead of just letting them open, like people just know this is what you're doing. No, sometimes it is not beneficial. And so what they do, he actually got guys, they built walls over the waters to conceal them. So you need to find a way to cover your assets. Hezekiah covered the assets from the perceived enemy. Okay? Now, and I think, unfortunately now, which you'll realize later is that, okay, let me just, I'll catch that up later. Now, so he continued strengthening himself and built up all the broken walls and raised them to the towers. So we have to get to a point where we strengthen the wounded. We strengthen the weak sides of us. Sometimes we get used to maybe something that you consider a weakness, and to a point you're like, I'm no longer working on this, but we need to keep on strengthening ourselves. Now, then a great turnout of people came to plug in, and so this and they were able to cover the aqueducts, and they were able to achieve what they had planned. And so when you have a vision and you communicate it, you may actually get people who will be compelled to come and work together with you. So may we get I was getting like, I need to communicate the vision that I have. Okay? Now, and then Hezekiah went ahead and built an arsenal. So spears and shields. So before the enemy comes, we need to equip ourselves. We need to equip ourselves with the word of God. In times where we have peace, in times when everything is okay, that is actually the time to invest in the word of God. That's the time to put in the work. that is actually the time to put on the full armor. So, and then after he had done that, after he had gotten everything, he went ahead and told the guys, be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or dismayed before the Assyrians, for there is another greater than us, than with those that are with them. Reminds me of the story of Elisha and Gehazi, Actually the same lines, like the one that is with us is greater than the one that is with them. So we need to strengthen ourselves in the Lord, not in your preparedness and neither in your resources. So you may actually have, as a matter of fact, you have the resources. You still need to remember your courage comes from God. Your boldness comes by the fact and virtue that God is with you, not that you have anything. Because he says, with the enemy now, with the Assyrians, what he has is the arm of flesh. But he said this to the Israelites, our God is with us to help us and to fight our battles. So this really got me, like, God is with us to help us and to fight our battles. And there are some times when you actually need to speak the word. And when Hezekiah spoke this word, he was able to encourage the Israelites. So let's speak the word. Let's speak the word of God. Let's speak Jesus into our situations. That may we rest in the word of God, And many of the times actually, we either find ourselves like we trust in our arms, we trust in what we have. But God is telling us we don't need to trust ourselves, we need to trust in Him. And so after all this, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, sent servants to Jerusalem. But he went to another place. He went to a place called Lachish. And so when Sennacherib sent people with threats, and fear is a strategy that the enemy can use against us. Doubt. So we need to actually trust in the Lord. Hide the word of God in our hearts when everything is well, so that in the day of temptation we shall not falter, we shall not lose hope. And so this guy was telling me, he came and told these people, do you think you're safe in Jerusalem? Do you think you're safe in Jerusalem? Don't trust Jerusalem. So don't trust Jerusalem, but trust the God who helped you to build that Jerusalem. May we not trust the money that we have. May we trust the God who helped us to get that money. May we not trust our resources, but may we trust the God who provided that resource. And so, when the enemies saw what Hezekiah was doing, and he actually came and with the words of discouragement and told them, Hezekiah persuades you so that you can give yourself and die in famine and thirst, saying that the Lord our God shall deliver us from the hand of the Syrians. And many will think that you are out of your mind when you choose to give yourself to God, even when it means that maybe you will actually miss what is your daily sustenance. Like, why are you not engaging in this? It could actually help you. You'll live out of famine, And so, we need to expect to be mocked. We need to expect insults. But in all this, we need to still trust God. So many will say that, why do you trust God? Why trust God and die out of famine and thirst? But we need to choose to honor God. That it says actually that when the enemy was tempting Jesus, what did he say? He said, that man shall not live by bread alone. So may we not be driven by fear of lack of bread, for God will provide and keep ourselves. If we keep ourselves in Him, God will actually provide, guys. And it may actually seem to be foolishness to follow Christ. But let's remember that the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But it is the power of the cross. It's still the power of the cross, you know. So as much as people will mock you, and they will think, man, you're being too, you know, but we need to still trust God. And so the enemy actually saw, Sennacherib and his team saw when Hezekiah was tearing down the altars. So you know, when Hezekiah was coming, his father was really a pagan. So he came and he tore down the altars and the idols. And so the enemy will see when we tear down the altars in our lives. He will actually see it when we were putting in changes, systems to follow God. But that should not deter us from keeping and following God. You know? People will come and actually, now you think that you now do this, now you think God will help you. You know, someone may come actually at it like that. But the thing is that Hezekiah knew that all these other idols could not match up with the God that he was now allied to. And so you see, like the Assyrians thought that many idols meant more power. But sometimes we need to understand that we don't need idols. We are more powerful following the God who is above all idols. You know, but the more idols in our hearts, the weaker our faith becomes. The more idols we keep in our hearts, the more weaker we become. And so the Assyrians boasted about his ancestors' conquest. And it's like, do you have an idea what I and my ancestors have done to all countries around here? Were the gods of those nations ever able to deliver their land from my hand? And so this man was proud of his ancestors, not knowing that actually God was using the Assyrians to punish other nations for not following God. So may we not boast on our past and our pursuits. May we count it everything as lost, what we have been able to achieve. May we count it as lost and pursue the higher calling. We need to boast that actually that we know Christ, that Christ has saved us. That is where we need to be boasting on. Nothing else, like boast in the cross and His saving grace. That is actually what we need to be boasting, and not anything else. And don't trust your arm when challenges come your way. Just because you're successful in the past doesn't guarantee you a success in the future. So success can actually give us that feeling that I can now pursue this. But may we be wise enough not to compare our past and be like, this thing, I got this, okay? Now, Sennacherib, this servant of Sennacherib, compared Yahweh to other gods, not knowing that actually there is no other God like Jehovah. No? And and the servant spoke against the Lord and against servant. And so he wrote a message insulting God. He wrote letters. This Sennacherib, he wrote letters insulting God, the God of Hezekiah. And telling them that God, this God will not save you. And it's actually true. There's some things that maybe God will not save us from. You know, there's some things that maybe God may decide, but it is still safer to trust God than to trust our resources. That even if He decides that He won't save us from something, it will be better if we still trusted in Him. And this is actually like, God, forgive me when I thought you were unable to save. And God, forgive me when doubts got the best of me and I doubted your will for me. Forgive me and help my unbelief. May my faith be secure in you even when challenges come my way. And people will speak against our God. People will speak against your God. But our God is not man-made. May we not make our own gods. May we trust in Yahweh, the true God. And when Isaiah the prophet heard these words, he joined hands with Hezekiah. And they went and prayed to the God of heaven. And the big question is this: what do you do when people believe in you and your God? Do you try to prove them, turn away from them, and cry to God? It is my prayer and my plea that we'll surrender it to God. And that if He chooses to actually save you, it is well. May we submit to God and He will. He will submit to God and resist the devil. And so this chapter really, as the story ends, one thing that is very, very sad is that now God actually changed the story, and this army and Sennacherib, so God sent an angel and he killed the people. And when Sennacherib went home, he was killed by his own king, like his own family. And everything went on, everything went on. And unfortunately, Hezekiah now got these mercenaries who came and visited him. And these guys were from Babylon. And it is so weird enough that Hezekiah, who was very, very tough on hiding his resources to the most vocal enemies, he went and showed these people the deepest secrets of the kingdom. He showed them the chest, he showed them everything. And this actually was led to his downfall, and this is actually what actually affected generations, because now the king of Babylon knew that there were treasures in Jerusalem. And so when years later, when Nebuchadnezzar came, and all the other kings, they came because they knew that there was treasures in his bag. So I guess that's my time. May we be very careful with may God grant us discernment, that we will not be too tough on the vocal enemy and be too lax on this other enemy that we don't know their potential. Otherwise, say God bless.